Welcome to Mythosium, the channel where we take ideas that seem counterintuitive, mysterious, or even a little uncomfortable, and break them down until they make perfect sense. Today we're exploring a concept that sounds strange at first, something you might associate with irrational thinking or misguided confidence. But beneath the surface, this idea turns out to be one of the most powerful psychological tools for achievement, creativity, persistence, and even emotional resilience. The idea is simple. Being slightly delusional, just a little disconnected from strict, objective reality, can be a superpower. That may sound bold. After all, most of us grow up hearing that being realistic is wise, that accuracy is responsible, and that objectivity is the best guide for navigating life. We're told that honesty with ourselves is essential, and that seeing the world clearly is the foundation for good decision-making. And in many contexts, that's absolutely true. But being completely realistic all the time doesn't motivate people very well. Pure realism rarely inspires, rarely energizes, and rarely fuels the kind of effort that leads to exceptional outcomes. If anything, strict realism often highlights obstacles and amplifies doubts. What actually drives people to change their lives, pursue difficult goals, and push through long periods of uncertainty isn't pure reason. It's belief. And belief, even at its strongest, is rarely perfectly rational. To understand why a touch of self-deception can be incredibly useful, it helps to think about how the mind processes challenge. When you set a goal that's ambitious, complex, or uncertain, there's a part of you that immediately notices potential risks, limitations, and difficulties. This part is trying to protect you. It's scanning for threats. It's calculating probabilities. And it's often good at convincing you not to try. But there's another part of the mind, a part that imagines possibilities, dreams in vivid color, and focuses less on probability and more on potential. This part of the mind doesn't ask whether a goal is likely, it asks whether a goal is meaningful. It's the part that allows someone to attempt something that seems unreasonable from the outside. It whispers that something extraordinary could happen. And it is this part that often drives human progress. This slight disconnect from strict probability isn't a flaw. It is a feature of the way human motivation works. When people believe something is possible, even if it's unlikely, they behave differently. They experiment more. They stay with problems longer. They learn faster. They persist through periods of failure that would break someone who sees the world too realistically. A small dose of delusional optimism can hold a person in the game long enough for skill, experience, and opportunity to catch up. But this doesn't mean ignoring reality altogether. There's an important distinction between destructive delusions and constructive ones. Destructive delusions deny consequences, refuse evidence, and distort responsibility. Constructive delusions amplify effort, support resilience, and provide emotional fuel without disconnecting from the practical world. Constructive delusion is the belief that you can grow into a bigger version of yourself even before you have evidence. It's the belief that your contributions are meaningful even when their full impact isn't visible yet. It's the belief that the future can unfold in better ways than your past suggests. Psychologists have long observed that people tend to overestimate their own contributions in group projects, perceive themselves as more ethical than averages, and expect positive outcomes more often than mathematics supports. At first glance, these biases look irrational, but when studied more carefully, something remarkable appears. People with these mild positive biases often achieve more, feel better emotionally, and persist longer in the face of adversity. In other words, they outperform the purely realistic. That's because belief influences behavior, and behavior influences outcomes. If two people attempt the same goal and one believes success is extremely unlikely while the other believes success is difficult but achievable, the second person almost always performs better, not because they're more talented, but because they act in ways that place them closer to success. They try more approaches, recover faster from failure, and maintain effort long after the pessimist has quit. Belief itself becomes part of the causal chain. But this raises a deeper question. Where is the line between helpful belief and harmful delusion? The answer lies in flexibility. A helpful delusion is one that strengthens your effort while still allowing you to update your strategy. It keeps you motivated without making you close-minded. It supports bold action while still encouraging learning. It says, I can figure this out, not I already know everything. When people hold constructive delusions, they are willing to revise, adapt, and improve. They maintain confidence but still accept feedback. They believe in future potential, but remain aware of consequences. They use optimism as fuel rather than as an excuse to avoid responsibility. Harmful delusion, on the other hand, rejects feedback, denies reality, and creates false certainty. Helpful delusion is empowering. Harmful delusion is isolating. One of the most fascinating aspects of constructive delusion is its relationship with luck. Humans often underestimate how much randomness influences outcomes. Success is rarely the product of effort alone. Timing, environment, social networks, early opportunities, and unpredictable events all play a role. But because people tend to focus on their own actions and memories, they often interpret success as something they earn purely through personal contributions. This isn't entirely true, but believing it gives them momentum. If a person attributed every achievement to luck, they would struggle to feel capable. They would hesitate to pursue difficult goals. They might avoid challenge entirely. A touch of self-serving bias, believing you contributed more than chance, helps maintain motivation. At the same time, recognizing that luck played a role prevents arrogance. Combining confidence in your abilities with humility about your fortune is one of the healthiest psychological positions you can hold. Another powerful aspect of constructive delusion is how it shapes identity. When someone believes they can grow, they begin acting as though they are capable of growth. Their behavior aligns with an identity that is slightly ahead of their current ability. Skills develop in the direction of their self-perception. A person who believes they are capable of being confident eventually becomes confident. A person who believes they can learn difficult things eventually does. A person who believes they can change their life builds the habits that make change possible. This doesn't happen instantly. It happens through small actions repeated over time. But belief determines which actions feel worth taking. Without that belief, the process never begins. Humans rarely act consistently with their current abilities. They act consistently with who they believe themselves to be. A constructive delusion nudges that belief forward. Without this emotional support system, many accomplishments would collapse halfway through. People don't succeed because they are fearless. They succeed because they keep going despite fear. And what keeps them going is often a belief that cannot yet be justified by present circumstances. But constructive delusion isn't just about the self. It also influences how people work together. When a group believes that cooperation will create outcomes greater than individual effort, they behave in ways that make that belief come true. Shared optimism strengthens collective performance. Teams with positive illusions about their ability often outperform teams with more negative but accurate assessments. Their optimism improves communication, reduces internal conflict, and reinforces trust. Expectations shape reality. And that brings us to one of the most powerful aspects of this entire idea. Constructive delusion can be self-fulfilling. If you believe something positive about yourself or your future, that belief fuels actions that increase the likelihood of it becoming real. You end up creating the conditions that justify the belief you began with. Confidence comes first. Evidence comes later. But this works only if the belief is paired with effort. A helpful delusion is not a passive fantasy. It's a perspective that mobilizes action. It doesn't replace work. It energizes it. It doesn't deny difficulty. It motivates persistence. It doesn't ignore limits. It pushes them outward. It's a psychological engine that turns potential energy into motion. So, why is a small amount of delusion so empowering? Because human beings are not probability calculators. We are meaning makers. We thrive when we feel hopeful, capable, and supported by possibility. When people believe in their ability to grow, they grow. When they believe effort matters, effort increases. When they believe opportunities exist, they notice opportunities. Our brains evolved not to see the world perfectly, but to navigate it effectively. And effectiveness often comes from optimism, motivation, and confidence, more than from perfect accuracy. Constructive delusion is not about abandoning reason. It's about using belief as a tool. It's about understanding that a small, intentional misalignment with present reality can help you build a better future reality. It's about allowing yourself to imagine what you could become, even before you are that person. It's about choosing a narrative that brings out your best self instead of one that shrinks your ambition. The best version of this mindset is grounded optimism, confident in your potential, humble about your luck, flexible in your strategy, and open to feedback. It's a combination that supports growth without letting your ego disconnect from the real world. In the end, being slightly delusional isn't about distorting reality. It's about elevating your relationship with it. It's about recognizing that your beliefs shape your actions, and your actions reshape your circumstances. A small dose of delusion helps you build momentum, endure difficulty, and push beyond what seems immediately possible. And when used wisely, it becomes less a flaw in the mind and more a powerful engine for possibility. At Mythosium, we love exploring ideas like this because they reveal the hidden mechanics behind human behavior. They show how our minds aren't just observers of reality, they're active participants shaping it. If you enjoyed diving into the science and psychology that explain why we act the way we do, make sure to subscribe. Every week, we explore concepts that expand your understanding of yourself and the world around you. Thanks for watching, and stay curious.